With a brand new Speaker of the House in Rhode Island, it's a question of priorities, and so far, they seem upside down to me. Greetings to you. Thanks for tuning in to My State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. John Marion from Common Cause is my guest tonight. He'll be the second time that he's arrived on the Dan Yorke State of Mind set. We'll get a catch-up on some of the efforts he's making to make the campaigns for governor a little less ridiculous financially. It's a project he's been working on. But I called him in to talk about a column that was in the Providence Journal today, excellent column by Ed Fitzpatrick about, jobs, reputation, corruption, economy. We'll get it all straightened out for you. Let's go to the rundown and check out what we have tonight. This was just as heartbreaking as it comes, right, in Boston. And this is more on the Nick Mattiello House Speakership and just an example of what I think are just the wrong messages and signals being sent. And as a continuation of what's going on with the State House, Republicans who seemingly are negotiating for perhaps their own well-being versus ours. Now, this is interesting. A lot of scrutiny on the president and, what he's doing with the Pope. And this is very interesting. That's actually a sports conversation, believe it or not. So let's get down to it. This is the only word I could think of, and it's not an original word, and I'm sure that I am not the only one whose heart just dropped right out of your chest and gut after hearing about what happened with a 9-alarm fire in Boston yesterday. Here's the headline. Oh, my goodness. 2 firefighters dead in the Back Bay. You've seen enough of this coverage, I am sure, but here's a little snippet.
In 30 years, I've never seen a fire travel that fast, escalate that quickly, and create such havoc in such a short period of time.
We lost 2 heroes here today. These 2 heroes ran into a burning building, got people out of the building.
Citizens were saved, and that's what we do. We sacrifice our life for the citizens of the city of Boston.
That kind of conversation generally doesn't come from firefighter battalion chiefs or chiefs of the city or even the mayor when it's response to a fire, because usually they get the job done with no calamities. I mean, it's rare, thankfully, that we lose lives. Injuries, yes, losing lives with firefighters, thankfully, is a rarer experience, but when it does, it just rips your living guts out, and they have every right in the world to talk about heroes, and they have every right in the world to talk about how they put their lives on the line, and all you can do is just thank them and all of our firefighters. Michael Kennedy and Ed Walsh, firefighter Walsh had 3 kids, a wife, 43 years of age, and the younger firefighter, Mr. Kennedy, who was lost in this whole thing, is a Marine, and it's just complete heartbreak. And it causes me to check myself and remember, that we've got to not just thank our military, but thank our firefighters. They tend to be the guys that live around the corner, regular guys and gals. But the truth of the matter is that when the call needs to be answered, they don't think twice. And these guys went into the basement not thinking twice. They didn't come out. Godspeed to them. And my condolences to all the firefighter industry out there that we thank so much for their work. Next item. This is just a priority problem. And I talked to you about this a little bit last night, and I just wanted to break this out. This is going to feel controversial to you. And you're going to feel like you can't take me anywhere. Some of you are going to feel that way. But I don't care, because this has got to be said. So yesterday, we talked about the Speaker of the House being newly introduced. Nick Mattiello on Tuesday was he won the election perfunctorily because he had won it over the weekend in a battle at caucuses. This after Speaker Fox was exiting stage right because he was under investigation, clearly, with raids on his State House office and his home. This is a crisis of leadership, okay? And what I dream of are the kind of Spartans who will come to leadership and say things like, hey, listen, we're a little bit in crisis mode here right now, so enough about me. Thanks for your support. I shall lead now. Here's what we're going to do about ethics. Here's what we're going to do about internal policing. Here's what we're going to do about the economy. Here's what we're going to do about this, this, and this, and this, and let's get to it. Instead, for the 12 minutes that Nick Mattiello was speaking, he spent a good 5 of them on the back end. Well, on the front end, he thanked Gordon Fox and offered his support, which I don't think is appropriate. You know, on a personal level, you can make a phone call if you feel bad, since you were his right-hand guy. But thanking him and offering support when you don't know what he's jammed up with is a bad message to the rest of the world, because it looks like, you know, the old boys network in the middle of a lot of, you know, speculative behavior, right? The last 5 minutes of his presentation, he went and spent it all on his family. Now, look, don't misunderstand me. Anybody who loves his family has my respect. But it was more like a graduation party in the backyard. This is not about self-congratulations and listing every uncle and aunt that you've got and every friend that you've ever had who was there for your support. This is not the Academy Awards. And, you know, it's not a place for this.
I have just a small token of appreciation, but sorry for what's about to come.
Now, it's not politically correct for me to run video of Nick Mattiello offering his wife Marion flowers for her support. It's not political. I'm sure some of you are bristling over this. But let me tell you, it's part of this, you know, self-success, self-congratulatory type of stuff. Now, I understand it's an achievement to become the Speaker of the House, but context is important here. It's under duress. We're under fire. He was elected in 3 days. No public policy conversations. He is a triage guy here. He should act like it. You know, climbing the mountain and celebrating it with your family in front of the General Assembly is not the way to send a message that it's time to get to work. Now, meanwhile, you've got this stuff going on. By the way, we're going to talk to Nick Mattiello about this. He's scheduled for the show here on Monday, and I will address this with him. I don't hit anybody upside the back of the head. They know where I'm coming 100 miles away. Here is the latest. Do we have a headline on this? I guess we do. Sure. So here are the new faces at the top. Some of the changes that are happening on the committee level. And in the middle there is Doreen Costa, who is a Republican. And she has earned the House Judiciary Vice Chairmanship. She's been sitting on that committee. Now, Doreen is kind of a happy-go-lucky person. I enjoy her company. She's fun to get along with. She's all right there. I mean, this is no big problem. See a big smile on her face as she's going into the caucus on Sunday. But she knew she was going to come out with something in order to be able to transfer a vote for Nick Mattiello. I told you, the Republicans should have banded together and either said, you guys are embarrassing, and left the whole thing alone, or put up 2 or 3 issues that really were important to us, in order to be able to support a specific candidate. Instead, she's come out with a position. Now, judiciary is important, and we'll see how she acts there. By the way, the vice chair, these chairmanships are so overrated. The Speaker of the House is running the whole thing from his office. But, you know, she's talking about how it's game-breaking and first ever and first woman, first Republican in 20 years to be in leadership. Leadership, a little bit of a stretch. She also told us on the radio today, don't have it for you, I'll have it in the future, a little bit of a mishap on my part. But she said she was surprised. Now, if you're surprised by this, either you're not paying attention or you're not telling us the truth. But again, position over policy. It's all about them climbing the ladder in the State House as opposed to getting it done for us. And I don't know if it's ever going to change, but if it doesn't, things aren't going to get any better. Next item. This is kind of cool. The president is, at the Vatican. Washington Post headline. Okay, the Pope is somebody who challenges us, and the president recognizes that. We've got some B-roll of the president talking. That's what we call in the business, B-roll. The president is, highly respectful to the Pope and alike. And some people were saying, the pundits out of Washington, oh, he's going to spend some time on this and milk it because his 41% popularity rating, can go up if he rubs off on the Pope. Look, I'm going to give the president a break on this. The president can spend all the time in the world. Reportedly, he spent double the time with the last Pope, and I don't know how much time he spent with Pope Francis, but here's the thing. It's nice to see the President of the United States meeting with the Pope, and it's nice to see him being impressed by the fact that he's meeting with the Pope. The Pope is a world leader, a political leader, no doubt, but, there's a special thing about the Pope that has not been lost on President Obama or anybody else, and I say fine. Have as many meetings with the Pope as you can, Mr. President. And finally, This is not about regular union politics. This is a sports story. Look at this headline. Northwestern Ruling sends clear message, NCAA, it's time to negotiate. Yeah, this is a story where a UCLA athlete, I believe, a basketball player, brought a litigation against the NCAA because they want to be paid. Well, the Northwestern football team is kind of signed on as a co-plaintiff in all of this. And now we've got a judicial, kind of a labor relations, rather, decision that they are not student athletes, but they are paid employees because of the compensation to get via their scholarship. I wouldn't worry about this racing into a union for all collegiate athletes. And there's going to be a big distinction between those who are scholarship athletes playing for big dough and those who don't play for any dough. Nobody comes to their swim meets, or their field hockey games. And then there's the non-scholarship athletes. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to have to be rearranged here. But somewhere along the line, the NCAA is going to have to lighten up on stipends and other things of compensatory nature that make being a collegiate athlete a little bit more palatable. Like if your parent is 3,000 miles away and you come from a poor neighborhood and they're not very well off, they can't come see your game because they can't get a plane ticket. We ought to be able to pay for stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that might get changed as we evolve with this case. All righty, when we come back, John Marion, who made some good points in Ed Fitzpatrick's excellent column in the Journal today, and we'll talk about it. Please don't go anywhere.
I was elected speaker to work on jobs and the economy, I believe, and that's going to be my priority. I have 100 days, so tomorrow I'm going to be working with our finance staff, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to try to come up with the best possible way to move forward.
Yeah, at first glance you say, okay, take charge, right? But you got to read this story in the Journal today, the column by Ed Fitzpatrick, which I thought was so well written. Put the focus on jobs, but don't overlook ethics. And quoted in the column is John Marion from Common Cause, no stranger to the show. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
One of our important good government groups, if not the most important. You say something in this story, John, in Ed's piece today. You say, look, you can't convince me that being in the New York Times for a couple of days in a row with an FBI raid is the right message about the way we do business. A legislator ought to be able to walk and chew gum, or a legislature ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We got to do something about corruption and the ethics environment, because that's the bigger message to the economic community out there, yes?
Absolutely. And we cite a study from UConn, it's a little dated, it's 10 years old, showing that it has an even greater impact than tax increases in this one study. An increase in corruption in a state on the job growth. So we think, the new speaker wants to talk about jobs in the economy. This has something to do with jobs in the economy.
It's a lot, man. The speaker goes out stage right on Friday. Is the question now, where were you when you found out about, the speaker having a raid? Where were you?
I saw it on Twitter. I saw Dan McGowan of PRI tweet a bad photo of the FBI going in the door, and it was off to the races.
And some people around here celebrate the drama. Mm-hmm. Now, look, I'm not going to suggest that it's not a ratings newspaper selling story, right? But it's nothing to celebrate, nor is it anything to watch with kind of a TV drama mindset. This is when the speaker goes out, we all go out. Yes?
Yeah, and to be honest, I live in his district, so I lost my representative that day because.
Well, he didn't resign his seat.
No, but
he'll be completely ineffective.
I doubt we're going to see him come back this session. And yes, it's a big loss for the state. It's a big black eye for the state. The Boston Globe both did a big piece on it and editorialized on it, and it reinforces this idea that Rhode Island is this state for sale that's been there, has been the reputation of the state for years.
Ethics is a problem right now. You've been focused on ethics, and I share your concern. I'm focused on 38 studios. Let's take them one at a time. The Ethics Commission has been neutered in many ways, based on a court case and then a shyness and a lack of rewriting the statutes, right?
So there was a 2009 Supreme Court case that said the constitutional amendment that created them came in conflict with an older constitutional clause, and that because of that, for a certain set of activities, the Ethics Commission can't even look or investigate
The
what
speech and debate
legislators
clause,
are doing.
the Senator Irons case, too much to
Yes.
get into right now. But in the last handful of years, the Ethics Commission has been rendered almost useless.
Yep. Not to confuse, they do have authority over something called financial disclosure, and Speaker Fox was fined earlier this year
True.
on financial disclosure. And who knows-
$1,500.
Yeah, but who knows what relationship that has to what's going on?
I think
too.
it has plenty of relationships.
So-
But you're concerned that the legislature hasn't beefed up the oversight role of ethics on them.
So right now there's nothing, right? So if a legislator stands up, gives a speech, and then votes on something that benefits them and only them, there's nothing in place to protect against that.
So if you're doing something legislatively behind the scenes that benefits you and creating a vote environment that benefits you or an industry or a friend of yours or whatever, all you have to do is stand up and speak about it on the floor and vote on it, and you become clear, more or less, according to that ruling, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, there's the core legislative acts, they're called.
Yeah.
The federal courts say there's something like 80 different activities a legislator can do, from voting, which is the very symbolic public part, but drafting stuff and directing your staff to do things. These are all part of what is legislating.
So what do you want the legislature to do about that?
So I want them to put an amendment on the ballot this November, question 1, that would simply reverse that 2009 decision.
And you think they have the power to do that?
They do have the power to do that. And then the people have the power to restore the jurisdiction.
Right.
We've introduced it for 5 years.
All right. Well, you know what? Where's the priority? And we'll talk about 38. And by the way, he's still working on a project to try to get the gubernatorial candidates together. Stay with us. I wish I had time to tell you what I just did, but I've just been charged with spoiler alert. Have you seen House of Cards on Netflix? John has yet to see it, but I don't have time. You're going to watch it, though.
Yes, I will.
And you're not mad at me that I spoiled
No,
the
I'm
end.
not
It's
mad
only
at all.
season 2. I don't know what's going to happen next year. The amendment to change the Ethics Commission role, important. We got to work on that over the summer and the fall to make sure people know what's going on. Do you have a thought on the idea that this legislature, who couldn't police itself, who were led blindly to a vote on 38 studios, has never called the kind of subpoena-based hearings that they could if they would just tinker the legislation a little bit to do so? And there's still no discussion with the new speaker about revisiting how they do business.
Yeah.
Does it bother you as much as it bothers me?
It does, and it bothers me too that we haven't seen a lot of activity from the Attorney General too, right? And there's
Thank
supposed
you.
to be some tension in a system of separation of powers, and we don't have that tension yet. And I think eventually we'll get there, after separation of powers is in there for a couple of decades. But boy, 10 years on, there's not a lot of tension there.
Well, Peter Kim Martin's a former member of the legislature and is very familiar with these guys, and it feels like a boys' club that he's not been vocal. You know, the state police have acknowledged that they're still looking at 38 studios. The theories abound as to whether the feds were leading the state police or the state police were leading the feds in this investigation, but most folks think it at least comes down to the Providence Economic Development Partnership and Speaker Fox's legal work, and who knows where the tentacles of that will reach. But this legislature can't sit by idly and watch the parade of law enforcement in and out at times to think and hope, maybe, that the 38 studios debacle will be resolved from that. They have an obligation. In Washington, they wouldn't get away with this. There'd be hearings on their own behavior. To vote a $125 million loan guarantee, knowing that the Kurt Schilling deal was in the pipeline, and knowing that Fox was the only guy or two that knew about it, and they never had the integrity and the testicular fortitude to say, you know what, we got to do something about how we acted here, is uncanny.
But it's also about a two-party system, which we don't really have. And so we see the 6 Republicans in the House, doing what they need to do to be part of the winning side, when, there's some value in the loyal opposition.
Right. I don't think they handle that. You generally don't get into political analysis,
No.
but that's as close as you. So when you start to do that, you're getting the message, right? Let's do a minute or two on the governor's race. How are you doing getting everybody together for the People's Pledge? This thing where if special interests and PAC money comes in, they got to pay a 50% fine out of their campaign funds.
Yeah, so we were doing great last week. We're supposed to touch base yesterday to To be honest, this week's been a little bit of a blur
For everybody.
All the candidates have taken the latest proposal back to their lawyers. They're all looking at it. So hopefully I'll get back to it Monday.
Are you making progress? Are they getting close?
Yeah, we're getting closer.
All right.
Inching.
And the
closer.
essence is that you think the election will be less poisoned by outside interests when you get done with this
Yeah,
negotiation.
this would only be the primary, the Democratic primary. But we think there'd be less of a chance a super PAC comes in, drops a big ad buy on one of them.
All right, when you get some progress on that, come on back.
Sure will.
And take a long weekend and watch House of Cards.
I will.
And forget what I said during the break about what happens. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Read Ed's column in the Projo and John's thoughts on this. Economic development only happens when corruption is out of our reputation. Your state of mind when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take a look at how you can get involved in the program. You know this by now, right? But you're a new viewer, so you didn't know. 228-1886, state of mind at myritv.com is the email. And you can tweet and Facebook post at us. Here's a voicemail that was left from us yesterday, I think, last night's show.
I'd just like to say kudos to Representative Patricia Morgan for being able to stand up to the assembly and talk. And I thought it was very insulting for her to be told to sit down.
Yes, well, that happens from time to time. You know, Patty's a fighter. Patricia, you call her. She's a fighter, no doubt, but she was unorthodox and kind of clumsy and a little bit late to the table in standing up to demand that whoever was going to win the speakership answer to the issues. Anyway, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. We'll see you then. And on the radio at noon to 3 on WPRO. Have a great night. Go Dayton Flyers.